So I'm here at New York Comic Con 2013. I have finally found the Artist Alley over here in the separate building. And I'm here with Livio Ramondelli.
Hello.
How is your convention experience going?
Oh, it's good. It's been really, really busy from the start. You know, preview night on today has just been nonstop people. So it's been very fun. Everyone's been very cool. So it's always great. A lot of Transformers fans too. I was really happy to see. So yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, I know of you mostly through your Transformers work, and and through your Transformers work, the stuff that really sticks out about it to me is the very kind of like almost mythological painting style of it.
Thanks.
I mean, Transformers has a lot of very heavy inked work, a lot of vivid color, or like very cartoon work. But what I like about your stuff is it kind of like, and a lot of your stuff covers like the quote unquote pre-war fiction. Yeah. And it kind of gives it its own kind of identity in a way that I really enjoy.
Oh, cool. Thanks. I always try and make them like, I like thinking of them as these kind of ancient, like the detail and the texture is meant to be to harken back to how old these guys actually are. I like mythological is like a good word for it. I really try and portray them like they've been around for a while. And I know it is different from like a classic like comic style, which I also love. Yeah. But yeah.
Well, I mean, because speaking of your work specifically on something like Autocracy, an easy example because you did most of the work on that.
Yeah.
And there were, in the discussions about it, there were divisions between people who were so used to some of the other styles of art. There were folks who were like, I'm not used to this at all.
Yeah.
And it's been interesting, like, in good ways and bad, discussing it with people, because there are some people who it's such a different style that some folks just don't react to it very well. And I had some people, saying like, oh, you can check out Autocracy if you want, but there's all these other books. And I looked at it, and people who told me like that specifically, they're like, well, the art's not the same at all. And I was like, if you mean that in a bad way, you're nuts.
Yeah,
like,
thanks, man. Yeah. No, I mean, I understand. It's definitely a very different style from a regular comic in general, and even me, like I didn't really grow up reading a lot of like painted comics. I never really responded to them. I kind of got into that later. So like, and I'm always trying to like make things tighter and better as far as I can. Like I think like the later stuff I did looks way better than the earlier stuff,
Yeah.
So I hope people check it out and just, I have heard of people kind of coming around and being like, oh yeah, like I'm getting used to like a more painted look to it,
Like myself and a couple friends of mine in the UK, we kind of been championing it a bit, going like, look, just look at it differently, and you can see there's like, there's strong quality there. Like your Zeta Prime.
Oh, cool.
Like sticks out a whole lot with the like sharp edge curves.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
On there, so.
Yeah. Thanks. Man.
I meant to ask you about your process actually, because your art looks a lot different than a lot of the other art I see in those books.
Yeah.
And I'm really bad at keeping up with like just the behind the scenes, making of comics. I just know usually it's there's inkers, there's colorists, and etc. Yeah. For your process, is it any different? Like, is it digital still, or
no?
Is it...
I mean, it starts the same as any comic. Like I still draw it with a pencil on regular paper. Like that looks exactly the same, except instead of going to an inker, I scan it in, and then you would basically adjust the levels in Photoshop, so you can make them a little darker. And then I do all the coloring, so I control like the full image. Like in a regular comic, there'd be multiple people who do the color and the penciling,
Yeah.
So you see, I mean, it starts off traditional, and then I guess it veers away. But I never wanted to look too computerized, Like I really wanted to. I'm always trying to make it more clear and easy to read,
Yeah.
Like,
so whatever style you use, one of the things that caught me the most, aside from the kind of painted-looking style, was the bright lights picked out in the darkness on everyone. So
nice.
I was curious about the process on that.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about digital that's really cool is you can make these glow effects that are really interesting, And I think in a regular comic, you have these like hard inked lines that really separate things from their backgrounds. But in a painted style, like in real life, you don't have those lines. An object is separated by its color, not a line around it. So I think you can do these like really intense highlights on it, and in Photoshop, there's this kind of glow effect that you can really create some like striking, for the Autobots' eyes, for example, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and as I said, like it's really cool how it's kind of taken on the identity of the pre-war Cybertron stories. It's this kind of more historical-looking style, whereas as time goes on, things tighten into this more modern.
Yeah, and I like that.
Style.
I like that too. Like it was really fun on like Robots in Disguise 21, the recent one, to do the flashbacks and then have Andrew do the modern stuff. Like I like that a lot, kind of tying it back to Autocracy. Like this is how things looked then. That was cool.
And because there have been IDW Transformers books with mixed artists in the book before.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I feel it really, really worked.
Thanks.
Because there was a story contextual reason for that.
I totally agree with you. And like normally I hate if there's like a 6-issue arc and one artist jumps in to do one issue of that. I normally think it looks terrible. Like if Andrew Griffith was going to do like a 6-issue series and I did issue 5, I would never want to do that. Like I just think it's too jarring. Like I would only ever want to do when it's a specific flashback,
Yeah.
So
no, that's cool. And Autocracy is also that's kind of it. It sounds interesting because it's an online available book. It's written by Flint Dille, who was involved in the original show. And I haven't like done a big review on it. I've shared my comments. Like it's a fun book. The writing, I like that Flint Dille's having a go at comic writing. Because he comes from that background of working on these older cartoons. And working with him, like, was it a different experience than working with a straight up comic writer, or is it?
It was. I mean, because the other writer on Autocracy is Chris Metzen, who's Blizzard's like creative director. So Chris and Flint, they had been friends for a long time, and they approach things a little bit differently. Like Chris reads everything. Like Chris knows all of IDW. Flint approaches it like he knows, the 80s. Like he knows when those characters were created. So he sometimes like he'll want to do ideas that have been, it's always this constant thing where he wants to do an idea that like some tiny IDW line will prevent him from doing it. He's like, oh, but it's a good idea. Why can't we do it? And so Chris and I, like, we understand the continuity, and and Flint just comes from like he wants to just tell a really good story, So hopefully we find like a nice balance of that, But in terms of difference, Flint doesn't write really comic book style. He just kind of writes like a story. Like he'll write a plot. He won't really call out this shot happens and this shot happens. Like Chris does that a lot more. Flint is really just about the actual like story, So
And with it being a very online-driven series, just quickly, because I like asking artists about this, because we're still in a very, I wouldn't call it transitional phase, but we've got services like Comixology, which are, they're still young services. Looking at, the I wouldn't say division, but the two fields of paper print media at your local comic shop and digitally available comics that you can get through service like Comixology. How does that look to you as an artist and as someone who works on the books?
It took me a while. Like at first, years ago, I wasn't really a big fan of digital comics. Because I like having the hard copy, right? And I like having like a library behind me of things I've read and collected. But I've come around to digital because for a couple reasons. One, like the convenience is amazing. Like 3 a.m, you can decide you want to read something. It's in stock. You can buy it that second. And also for like getting new readers. Like, let's say you have someone watching The Walking Dead who's never read a comic. The odds of them going to a comic book store, low, and then the odds of them going to the comic store and finding the first issue of Walking Dead are low, but digitally available. They can watch that series, pick up that first issue on their iPad, and read it, and that's good for all of us. Like, more sales for the industry, and
that's how I got into Autocracy. Is I was strolling through Comixology, and I'd missed the bullet point that Autocracy was actually an online sold series. So I saw it on there when the full series sale went on. For all 12 issues for like I think $10. And I'd go on Twitter. And I asked some of my friends who had read it as it came out. I was like, hey, should I just read this? And they're like, enough of them said, yeah, sure. So I was like, all right, just throw down $10 online, blap, and I can read this whole thing.
And it's like 99 cents for an issue. I mean, it's such an easy try. You just hit a button and then you have it.
I agree with you about the physical media. That the approach I have right now is I've tended towards if I want to keep up with a monthly, I tend to go Comixology. And then when the trade comes out, I get the trade, and often I try to wait for the hardcover trade.
I'm like you.
So I have like a solid piece of bookcase material.
I mean, I think you shouldn't give up one or the other too. Like I don't want digital to take over and there's no more print medium. Like I would hate that. I would ideally like it to be both, like same day digital and print release. Like I think that pleases everybody.
Yeah, because I mean it extends. This is a bit on a tangent. It extends out to even like television media and movie media. I still feel that whole thing is in a transitional stage of infancy of trying to find balance. Because who doesn't want to own a hard copy of something they really love? But who wants to own a hard copy of something they don't know about quite yet if they have the chance to test it out?
I think the only exactly. I totally agree. And I also think the only thing with digital that's kind of sad is that like you have less of a memory of buying it. Like I remember being a kid, and I remember specifically saving up money and buying like an issue of Spider-Man and like carrying it out of the store. With digital, it's like you're paying for things that aren't tangible. With invisible money, you don't really have that same sense of like going someplace and picking it up.
That's actually really spot on now that I'm thinking about it, because I keep up with a couple of series like IDW's Ninja Turtles and Transformers and Edison Rex. And specifically with the IDW series, where especially Ninja Turtles, where there are all these micro series that pop up, and I try to just buy them as they come out and read them. When I try to go back to my back catalog, I actually go like, oh god, I don't remember how I bought all these or which order I bought them in.
Like I used to when I was younger. I could go through like a back issue bin and I knew every issue that I owned. Like I remembered the cover. I remember buying it. Now like with all the digital stuff I bought, I don't quite remember it the same way. The read is a little bit less. In some cases, other cases it's been the same. And in some cases it feels a little bit more like just then and gone. So.
Well, I'll move into my penultimate question, which relates to something a little bit more toyetic. Because of late, Transformers Collector's Line Generations is skewing towards a very comic-centric approach for the coming year.
Yeah.
Now, this is like it's very focused on RID and more than meets the eye, especially with the Dark Cybertron event coming up. But you know, as one of the artists at IDW, like, what's your take on seeing the comics being tied into the toy line market on Walmart shelves?
I think it's awesome. Like, I think, like, you know, the more people reading the comics, the better. And I think, like, Hasbro's been really great, like, dealing with them. Like, their relationship with IDW is really, it's very friendly, it's very close. Like, they've never given us any crazy mandates that I've ever heard of. Like, and I think just having the comics with the toys is great. Like, hopefully it goes back and forth. We get more comic readers, get more toy buyers. Like, I don't see a downside, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, the feeling's got to be kind of cool to see, like, characters you've put to paper, like, more specifically coming to life, rather than, I drew an Optimus Prime, here's an Optimus Prime toy. It's like, I drew Optimus Prime, here's a toy very, very reminiscent of...
Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, like, who wouldn't want something they drew turned into a toy? Like, that's awesome, yeah.
And that said, like you know, if you could have your druthers, like, would you like to see something that you've drawn a whole lot, like say, Zeta Prime, just to come out in a very similar style to your
that would be awesome. Or even Zeta Prime, or even someone like an Optimus Prime, but like textured the way I like to texture, like a kind of scuffed up Optimus Prime. Like that's almost more like statue-ish for the detail. But I would love that. Yeah, it'd be awesome. Yeah,
cool.
There's amazing custom figures I've seen people do that are like close to it, and that I always want to buy, where they'll put in like lights in the eyes that look really great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because Transformers is such an interesting property for comic workers to work on, because it used to be such a toy commercial first, but with IDW's approach, at least, you know, now it is tying into the toy line, but you guys have so many years built up of pushing Transformers just as almost a pure passion project. Yeah. Aside from when, you know, you tie into the movies or something like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I guess my last question is, it's a little bit more of a general NYCC question. Okay. It's one that I've had for all the artists I'm hoping to talk to today. Now, the Artist Alley has been very much moved into its own building here. Yeah. Its own part of the center. Yeah. And truthfully, as an attendee, I found it very difficult to work Artist Alley into my walk around through the main building, when 2 years ago I know I was able to just stumble upon it while checking out booths. And I know that you haven't had a bad time here. You've had a lot of people coming through, but as an artist, I was curious on your opinion of having Artist Alley moved into this part of the show, almost to the left of the rest of the convention.
That's a great question. And coming to the show, I was more worried than I am now. Like, because initially I was worried that, you know, the people that would find Artist Alley, they would be specifically looking for it. So you would miss that traffic of people that didn't even know they wanted to buy something, and they discover your work. You know, those people are great. But it really doesn't seem like it's hurt too bad. I mean, it's been steady, nonstop traffic in here. You know, I think. Thankfully, it's worked out pretty well.
That's good.
I don't know if I'd want every convention to adopt that, because I do like the idea of people finding something they didn't know that they were going to see, you know? Because like when I go to a show, I usually stay in the main room. I won't veer off that much. And you do miss some stuff. Yeah,
because I was in the main room, and I was sitting there kind of going, like, I feel like video games have bumped the Artist Alley out of the main chunk of the Comic-Con, and to me that's very strange, because it is the Comic-Con. But that said, I'm super glad to hear you've been having a good time and everything's been going well. Yeah. Because the last thing I'd want is for the artists to get bumped down the totem pole of what is generally a comic-based convention.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Yeah.
And so to close up, now we all know you're working on Transformers stuff. Yep. That's why I came, because I'm a very narrow-minded person.
Nice.
But what else are you working on outside of Transformers right now? Personal projects? Anything else going on?
Yeah, I mean, Transformers is definitely the main haul. Like a lot of Dark Cybertron stuff, and then some Marvels in Disguise, and I've been doing some covers here and there. I did some Star Wars covers for Dark Horse. I'm doing at least one Battlestar Galactica cover for Dynamite, which is cool. Some veering off into other robots, and and then there should be some more stuff to talk about, like a little bit down the line. I can't really say today, but that's the main stuff. Yeah,
it's because you're keeping busy, getting your fingers in a couple of different properties.
For sure. Yeah.
Sweet. Well, thanks very much for your time.
It's been great talking to you.
We snuck into this little private area here, and I think I hear the NY stormtroopers on the way, so we better get out of here.
All right. Bye, guys.
Take it easy.
Thanks a lot.